Hi, I'm Tiffany. Tiffany Martinez, though I suppose some people still think of me as Tiffany Williams. I'm 34 years old, and I live in a beautiful Victorian house in Portland, Oregon. You know, the kind with the wraparound porch and the garden that looks like something out of a magazine. People always compliment me on it when they visit, asking how Marcus and I could afford such a place on our salaries. I just smile and say we've been lucky. Tonight is our 5th wedding anniversary, and I'm standing in front of my bedroom mirror, adjusting the emerald green dress that Marcus bought me for my birthday last year. The silk feels cool against my skin, and the color brings out my eyes. At least, that's what he said when he gave it to me. The evening fog is already rolling in through the bay, casting everything in that soft, dreamy light that makes Portland feel like a fairy tale sometimes. I can hear Marcus downstairs, probably checking his watch for the 3rd time. He's always been punctual. It's one of the things I admired about him when we first met at that conference in Seattle 5 years ago. He was presenting on sustainable architecture, and I was there representing my nonprofit, Green Spaces for All. He had this confidence about him, this way of commanding a room that made everyone listen. When he approached me afterward, I felt like I'd been chosen for something special. "Tiffany!" His voice carries up the stairs, tinged with that slight impatience that's become more common lately. "Reservations at 7:30. "Coming," I call back, taking one last look at myself. My dark hair is pulled back in a low chignon, and I've applied just enough makeup to look polished without seeming like I'm trying too hard. It's a delicate balance, one that I've learned to navigate over the years of being Marcus's wife. The restaurant he chose is Canard, one of those places where you need reservations weeks in advance, and the servers know the provenance of every ingredient. It's exactly the kind of place Marcus loves. Sophisticated, exclusive, the kind of establishment where being seen matters almost as much as the food. As we walk in, I notice how the hostess's eyes light up when she sees him. It's the same look I used to get from people when I told them I was married to Marcus Chen, the rising star of Portland's architectural scene. "Mr. Chen, Mrs. Chen," she says warmly, though she stumbles slightly over my name. Most people assume I took his name, and I've stopped correcting them. It's easier that way. "Your table is ready." The table is perfect, by the window, overlooking the Willamette River as it curves through the city. The lights are beginning to twinkle on the bridges, and I can see couples walking hand in hand along the waterfront. It's the kind of view that should make you feel romantic, grateful for the life you've built together. Marcus orders wine, a Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley that costs more than most people spend on groceries in a week. He does this without consulting me, the way he's started doing a lot of things lately. When the sommelier brings it to our table, Marcus goes through the whole ritual of tasting and approving, nodding seriously as if the fate of the evening depends on getting it exactly right. "To us?" he says, raising his glass, and I mirror the gesture. The wine is perfect, of course. Everything Marcus chooses is perfect. That's what everyone says about him. That he has impeccable taste. That he knows how to live well. That I'm lucky to be along for the ride. The conversation starts easily enough. He tells me about his latest project, a sustainable housing development that's been getting attention from architecture magazines. I listen, asking the right questions, showing the right amount of interest. It's a dance we've perfected over the years. This performance of the successful couple enjoying their anniversary dinner. But as the evening progresses, I start to notice the subtle changes. The way his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes when he talks about our future. The way he checks his phone twice during dinner, claiming it's just work but keeping the screen angled away from me. The way he keeps glancing around the restaurant, as if he's looking for someone or hoping to be seen by someone. "You know," he says as we're waiting for dessert, "I've been thinking about our living situation." Something in his tone makes me set down my wine glass. "What do you mean?" "Well, the house. It's quite large for just the two of us. And with property values the way they are now." He pauses, taking a sip of wine. "I think we should consider selling, moving somewhere more practical." I feel something cold settle in my stomach. More practical. You know what I mean. Something that makes sense for our lifestyle. A condo downtown, maybe. Modern. Efficient. He's using his professional voice, the one he uses when he's trying to convince clients that his vision is the only logical choice. The maintenance on the Victorian is getting expensive, and honestly, it's not really us The word hangs in the air between us. Us, as if we're a unit, a single entity with shared preferences and dreams, as if the house that I've loved since I was 7 years old. The house where I learned to bake cookies with my grandmother, where I had my first kiss on the front porch swing, where I felt most like myself, as if that house isn't really part of who I am. I love that house, I say quietly. I know you do. But love isn't always practical, is it? His smile is patronizing, the kind you might give to a child who's being unreasonable about a toy they've outgrown. We need to think about our future, our real future. The dessert arrives, a beautiful construction of dark chocolate and gold leaf that probably costs more than most people's entire dinner. But I can barely taste it. Marcus is talking about square footage and market trends, about how much easier it would be to entertain in a modern space, about how the Victorians' quirks are really just maintenance headaches waiting to happen. The foundation alone, he's saying, cutting into his dessert with surgical precision, probably needs major work. And don't get me started on the electrical system. It's all original wiring, you know. A fire hazard, really. I want to tell him that I had the electrical system completely updated 3 years ago, that the foundation was inspected and reinforced just last spring, that every quirk he's dismissing represents hours of careful restoration work. But something in his tone stops me. This isn't really about maintenance costs or modern conveniences. This is about something else entirely. Marcus, I say carefully, where is this coming from? You've never mentioned having problems with the house before. He sets down his fork and looks at me directly for the first time all evening. In the candlelight, his face looks different somehow. Sharper, more angular than I remember. Tiffany, I need to be honest with you. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately. About us. About our life together. About what I want for my future. The restaurant's ambient noise. The gentle clatter of silverware. The low murmur of conversation. The jazz music playing softly in the background. Suddenly feels very far away. I can hear my own heartbeat in my ears. What kind of thinking? I ask, though I'm not sure I want to know the answer. I'm 36 years old, he says, as if this is some kind of revelation. I'm at a crucial point in my career. The Henderson project is about to launch, and there's talk of a partnership at the firm. I need to be strategic about how I present myself, about the image I project. I don't understand what this has to do with our house. It's not our house, though, is it? The words come out sharper than he probably intended, and I see him take a breath, recalibrating. I mean, technically, legally, it's yours. It was your grandmother's house. You inherited it. I've never been on the deed. This is true. But it's never been something we've discussed as a problem. When we got married, he moved into my house. It seemed natural. I'd lived there since I was 19, when my grandmother passed away and left it to me. It was my home, and then it became our home. I thought that was how these things worked. Are you saying you want to be on the deed? I ask. Because we can arrange that. We should have done it when we got married, I suppose. I never thought... No. He cuts me off, and there's something in his voice that makes me go cold. That's not what I'm saying. The waiter approaches to refill our wine glasses, and Marcus waves him away with an impatient gesture. We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of whatever he's trying to say pressing down on the table between us. I met someone, he says finally. The words hit me like a physical blow. I feel my face flush, then go cold, then flush again. The beautiful restaurant, the anniversary dinner, the careful choreography of our evening together. It all suddenly seems like an elaborate stage set for this moment. What do you mean you met someone? My voice sounds strange in my own ears, too high and too controlled. Her name is Ashley. She's a journalist. She's been covering the sustainable architecture movement for Portland Monthly. We've been working together on a story about the Henderson project. He's speaking in that same professional tone, as if he's giving a presentation. It just happened. We connected in a way that I haven't felt in a long time. I think about all the evenings he's come home late, claiming he was working on the project, all the weekend meetings and the conferences he's attended alone, all the times he's checked his phone during dinner and smiled at something on the screen before quickly putting it away. How long? I ask. 3 months. He at least has the decency to look uncomfortable. I didn't plan for this to happen, Tiffany. but I can't ignore what I'm feeling. 3 months, a quarter of a year. While I've been planning this anniversary dinner, while I've been thinking about our future, while I've been living in what I thought was our shared life, he's been building something else entirely, with someone else. So what exactly are you telling me? I ask, though I think I already know. I want a divorce. I want to end this marriage and start over with Ashley. She understands my work, my ambitions. She moves in the same circles I do. We're compatible in ways that you and I never really were. The restaurant is still buzzing around us. Other couples celebrating their own anniversaries and first dates and business dinners, completely oblivious to the fact that my marriage is ending at table 12. I feel like I'm watching this scene from outside my own body, like I'm floating somewhere near the ceiling, looking down at the woman in the green dress whose husband is leaving her on their anniversary. And the house? I ask, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. Well, that's part of what I wanted to discuss. I know it's yours legally, but I've been living there for 5 years. I've contributed to the mortgage payments, the maintenance, the improvements. I think I'm entitled to some consideration. I stare at him. Consideration? Half the current market value would be fair, I think. It's appreciated significantly since we've been married, and some of that appreciation is due to the work I've done on it. The kitchen renovation, the landscaping, the deck I built last summer. He's talking about my house, my grandmother's house, the house where I learned to make her famous apple pie, where I've hosted Christmas dinners and birthday parties and game nights with friends, as if it's a business asset to be divided up, as if the 5 years we've spent there together give him the right to take half of everything my family built over 3 generations. You want me to buy you out of my own house? It's not a question. I want us to be fair to each other. I want this to be amicable. He reaches across the table as if to take my hand, but I pull back. We can work out the details with lawyers, but I think if we're both reasonable, you don't belong here. The words slip out before I can stop them. Marcus looks confused, as if he's not sure what I mean. Excuse me? You don't belong here. I repeat, louder this time. You never did. The words hang in the air between us, and I can see Marcus's face changing as he processes what I've said. The confident, controlled expression he's been wearing all evening cracks slightly, revealing something uncertain underneath. What do you mean by that? He asks, his voice dropping to a whisper. A couple at the next table glances over, probably wondering if they're witnessing a lover's quarrel or something more serious. I take a sip of wine, buying myself time to think. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of letting him make decisions about our life, our future, our home. 5 years of being grateful for his attention, his success, his apparent love. 5 years of feeling like I was lucky to be chosen by Marcus Chen, the rising star of Portland's architectural scene. I mean exactly what I said. You don't belong here. You never belonged in my house, in my life, in my family's history. I can hear my voice getting stronger, more certain. You've been living in my world, Marcus. Not the other way around. He leans back in his chair, clearly caught off guard. This isn't the reaction he expected. He probably thought I'd cry, or beg him to reconsider, or at least be devastated by his revelation about Ashley. Instead, I feel something I haven't felt in years. Clarity. Tiffany, I think you're upset and not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in a long time. I set down my wine glass and look at him directly. Tell me, Marcus, what do you actually know about the house? About its history, its value, its significance? I know it's a Victorian built in 1892. I know it's been in your family for 3 generations. I know it's worth approximately $1.2 million in today's market. He's reciting facts like he's reading from a real estate listing. And that's it? That's all you know about the place you've been living for 5 years. What else is there to know? It's a house, Tiffany. A beautiful, well-maintained house. But still just a house. Just a house. The words sting, but they also illuminate something I've been trying to ignore for years. To Marcus, the house is just an asset, a beautiful backdrop for the life he's been building. He's never understood what it means to me, what it represents about my family's journey, about my own identity. My great-grandmother, Elena Martinez, bought that house in 1952. I begin. and I can see Marcus's impatience already building. He's never liked it when I tell family stories. She was a 22-year-old immigrant from Mexico who spoke almost no English. She cleaned houses for wealthy families in the West Hills, saved every penny for 7 years, and bought that house for $3,000. Tiffany, I don't see what this has to do with... She bought it, I continue, my voice getting stronger, because she wanted her children to grow up in a place that was truly theirs. She wanted them to have roots, to have something that no one could take away from them. She worked 3 jobs to keep that house, to pay the mortgage, to maintain it. Marcus is looking around the restaurant, probably hoping our conversation isn't attracting too much attention. But I don't care anymore. For the first time in years, I'm telling the truth about something that matters to me. My grandmother, Rosa, was born in that house. She met my grandfather there, raised my mother there. When Elena was too old to maintain it, Rosa took over the mortgage payments. She added the sunroom, planted the garden, refinished the hardwood floors herself. She taught me to cook in that kitchen, to sew in the living room, to tend the roses in the backyard. I appreciate your family history, but when my grandmother died, she left the house to me. Not to my mother, not to my uncle, not to be sold and divided among the family. To me, because she knew I understood what it meant. She knew I would protect it, preserve it, honor what she and Elena had built. I can feel tears starting to form, but they're not tears of sadness. They're tears of anger, of recognition, of long overdue clarity. You moved into that house 5 years ago, and you've been trying to change it ever since. The kitchen renovation you mentioned? I never wanted that. You insisted on it because you said the original cabinets were dated. The landscaping? You pulled out my grandmother's heirloom roses to plant those modern sculptural plants that look like they belong in a design magazine. Marcus is staring at me now, and I can see him starting to realize that this conversation isn't going the way he planned. The deck you built last summer? You built it right over the vegetable garden where my grandmother taught me to grow tomatoes and peppers and herbs. You poured concrete over soil that had been cultivated for 70 years because you wanted a clean line for entertaining. You agreed to all of those changes, he says defensively. I agreed because I loved you, because I thought we were building something together, because I was so grateful that someone like you wanted to be with someone like me, that I let you erase parts of my history to make room for your vision of our future. The restaurant around us has become background noise. I can see our waiter hovering nearby, probably wondering if he should approach or give us more time. Other diners are starting to notice that something serious is happening at our table. Someone like me? Marcus asks, and there's something dangerous in his voice now. What exactly do you mean by that? You know what I mean. You're successful, ambitious, sophisticated. You move in circles I never thought I'd be part of. You've always made it clear that I was lucky to be chosen by you, that I should be grateful for the life you've given me. I never said that. You didn't have to say it. It's been implied in every decision you've made about our life together. Where we go for dinner, what parties we attend, how we spend our weekends, how we present ourselves to the world. You've been reshaping me just like you reshaped my house, trying to make me fit into your idea of what a successful architect's wife should be. Marcus is quiet for a moment, and I can see him processing what I've said. When he speaks again, his voice is colder than I've ever heard it. So what are you saying? That you're not grateful? That you haven't benefited from our marriage? From the life we've built together? I'm saying that I've been so busy being grateful that I forgot who I was before you. I forgot that I didn't need to be rescued or improved or elevated. I forgot that I was already enough. I reach into my purse and pull out a folded piece of paper. I've been carrying it around for weeks. Not sure why, but suddenly I know exactly why I need it. This is the property deed, I say, placing it on the table between us. The current deed, with my name on it. Do you want to know what else is on here? Marcus looks at the paper but doesn't touch it. The house is worth $1.2 million, like you said, but it's also worth something you can't put a price on. It's worth the sacrifice of a woman who cleaned other people's houses so her children could have a home. It's worth the love of a grandmother who taught her granddaughter that roots matter, that history matters, that some things are worth preserving even when the world tells you to move on. I fold the deed back up and put it in my purse. You want half of what my family built over 3 generations. You want to be compensated for 5 years of living in a house that you never really appreciated, never really understood, never really belonged in. Marcus is staring at me, and I can see the wheels turning in his mind. He's probably calculating, strategizing, trying to figure out how to regain control of this conversation. But here's the thing, Marcus. Here's what you don't understand about that house, about me, about what you're really asking for. The silence stretches between us as I gather my thoughts. Marcus is sitting perfectly still, his hands folded on the table, his expression unreadable. This is his lawyer face, the one he uses when he's trying to assess a situation and determine his next move. But for the first time in our marriage, I'm not intimidated by it. The house has been in my family for 73 years, I continue, my voice steady and clear. But what you don't know, what I've never told you, is that it was never just a house to us. It was our foundation, our anchor, our proof that we belong somewhere in this world. I can see Marcus's jaw tighten slightly. He's always been uncomfortable when I talk about belonging, about identity, about the things that make us who we are. He prefers to focus on the future, on achievement, on the image we project to the world. When Elena bought that house, she was one of only 3 Mexican families in the entire neighborhood. The neighbors petitioned to have her evicted. They said she was bringing down property values, that she didn't belong in such a respectable area. I pause, letting this sink in. Sound familiar? Marcus shifts in his seat, and I can see him starting to understand where this is going. She fought for that house, Marcus. She fought for her right to be there, to raise her children there, to be part of that community. She learned English by talking to her neighbors, even the ones who didn't want her there. She baked cookies for block parties, volunteered at the school, attended city council meetings. She made herself belong. Our waiter approaches tentatively, probably wondering if we're ready for the check, but Marcus waves him away without looking up. Rosa continued that fight in her own way. She became a teacher, one of the first bilingual teachers in the Portland School District. She used our house as a meeting place for other Latino families, helping them navigate the school system, find jobs, understand their rights. She turned our dining room into a classroom where kids could get help with homework in Spanish and English. I can feel the emotion building in my chest. But it's not sadness anymore. It's pride. It's strength. It's the recognition of something I've been carrying with me all along, but somehow forgot in the process of becoming Mrs. Marcus Chen. When I inherited that house, I inherited all of that history, all of that struggle, all of that triumph. I inherited the responsibility to honor what Elena and Rosa built, to continue their legacy of making space for people who are told they don't belong. Marcus finally speaks, and his voice is careful, controlled. That's all very meaningful, Tiffany, but it doesn't change the legal reality of our situation. We're married. I've contributed to the household expenses, the maintenance, the improvements. I have rights. Do you? I ask. And I can see surprise flicker across his face, because I've been thinking about those contributions you mentioned. Let me tell you what I've discovered. I pull out my phone and open the banking app I've been avoiding for months. The numbers are all there, clear and undeniable. The mortgage payments on the house are automatically deducted from my account. They have been for the entire 5 years of our marriage. My account, from my salary at the nonprofit. I scroll through the records. The property taxes, the insurance, the utility bills, all from my accounts. Marcus is very still now, and I can see him calculating, trying to remember how we arranged our finances when we first got married. The kitchen renovation you mentioned? I paid for that with money from my grandmother's life insurance policy. The landscaping? I paid for that too, from my savings. The deck you built last summer? I bought all the materials with my credit card. I look up from my phone and meet his eyes directly. You know what you contributed to, Marcus? You contributed to the groceries sometimes. You paid for dinners out, for vacations, for the wine we're drinking tonight. You contributed to the lifestyle we've maintained, but you never contributed to the house itself. The color is starting to drain from Marcus's face, and I can see him realizing that his assumptions about our financial arrangements might not be as solid as he thought. But even if you had contributed, I continue, even if you had paid for every improvement, every repair, every utility bill, it wouldn't matter. Because the house isn't just a financial asset. It's a legacy. It's a trust that was passed down to me with the understanding that I would protect it, preserve it, and pass it on to the next generation. We don't have children, Marcus says quietly. No, we don't. But that doesn't mean the legacy ends with me. That house has been a safe haven for my family, for my community, for 3 generations. It will continue to be that for as long as I'm alive to maintain it. I think about the plans I've been making, the ones I've never shared with Marcus, because I knew he wouldn't understand them. The plans to convert the basement into a meeting space for the immigrant families I work with through the nonprofit. The plans to start a scholarship fund in Elena's name. The plans to document the oral histories of the families who have found refuge in our dining room over the years. So when you say I don't belong here, Marcus says, and there's something different in his voice now, something that might be the beginning of understanding, you're not just talking about the restaurant. I'm talking about the house. I'm talking about the life we've built together. I'm talking about the way you've tried to reshape everything about me and my history to fit your vision of what our future should look like. The restaurant around us has grown quieter, or maybe I'm just more aware of the space we're occupying. The way our conversation has created a bubble of intensity in the midst of all this casual elegance. You told me tonight that you want to start over with Ashley because she understands your work, your ambitions, because she moves in the same circles you do, because you're compatible in ways that we never were. I pause, letting him hear his own words reflected back to him. What you're really saying is that she belongs in your world in a way that I never did. Marcus doesn't deny it, which is somehow more honest than any defense he could offer. But here's what you don't understand, Marcus. I never wanted to belong in your world. I wanted you to want to belong in mine. I wanted you to see the value in what my family built, to appreciate the history you were becoming part of, to add your own chapter to the story, instead of trying to rewrite the whole book. I think about Ashley, the journalist who covers sustainable architecture for Portland Monthly. I imagine her at gallery openings and industry events, speaking the same professional language as Marcus, sharing his ambitions and his vision of success. I imagine her in my kitchen, probably suggesting that the original cabinets should be replaced with something more modern, more photogenic. So you can have your divorce, I say, and I'm surprised by how calm I sound. You can start your new life with Ashley in a downtown condo that makes sense for your lifestyle. You can build something modern and efficient and perfectly suited to your image of success. Marcus nods slowly, as if he's relieved that I'm being reasonable about this. But you're not getting half of my house. You're not getting any of my house, because it was never yours to begin with. The silence that follows my words is profound. Marcus sits across from me, his carefully composed facade finally cracking as he processes what I've said. The confident, controlling man who started this conversation has been replaced by someone who looks genuinely shocked, as if he's just realized that the ground he thought he was standing on has shifted beneath his feet. You can't be serious, he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper. We're married. I have legal rights. You have the right to ask for spousal support, I reply calmly. You have the right to half of any assets we acquired together during our marriage. But my house isn't a marital asset, Marcus. It's a family legacy that predates you and will continue long after you're gone. I signal to our waiter, who has been hovering nearby with increasing concern. He approaches cautiously, probably wondering if he should call security or just bring us the check. We'll take the check, please, I say, my voice perfectly normal, as if we've just finished a pleasant anniversary dinner instead of dismantling our marriage piece by piece. Marcus looks at the waiter, then back at me, as if he's expecting me to change my mind, to become emotional, to crack under the pressure of what we're discussing. But I don't. For the first time in 5 years, I feel completely centered, completely sure of who I am and what I want. I'll stay in a hotel tonight, he says quietly. We can discuss the details with lawyers. That's probably best, I agree. I'll have your things packed and ready by the weekend. The waiter returns with the check, and I reach for it before Marcus can. It's a small gesture, but it feels significant. I'm done letting him pay for things, done feeling grateful for his generosity, done accepting the dynamic where he provides and I receive. I'll take care of this, I say, placing my credit card on the table. Consider it a goodbye gift. Marcus stares at me as if he's seeing me for the first time. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm seeing myself clearly for the first time in years. I don't understand, he says. 5 years ago, you couldn't get enough of me. You were so grateful to be part of my life, so eager to please, so willing to change whatever you needed to change to make our relationship work. What happened to that woman? I consider his question seriously. What did happen to that woman? The woman who was so dazzled by Marcus's attention that she forgot she had been perfectly complete before he came along. The woman who was so eager to be loved that she accepted being managed, directed, improved. She remembered who she was. I say simply, she remembered that she didn't need to be rescued or elevated or transformed. She remembered that she was already enough. The waiter returns with the receipt, and I sign it quickly, adding a generous tip. Around us, the restaurant continues its evening rhythm. Other couples lost in their own conversations, their own celebrations, their own dramas. I'm going to go now, I say, standing up and reaching for my purse. I'm going to drive back to my house, my grandmother's house, my great-grandmother's house. And I'm going to sit in the kitchen where Elena taught Rosa to make tamales, where Rosa taught me to make pie crust, where I'm going to teach other young women that they don't need anyone else's permission to take up space in this world. Marcus remains seated, looking stunned. Tiffany, wait. We can work this out. We can find a compromise. There's no compromise here, Marcus. There's only the truth. And the truth is that you never belonged in my world because you never wanted to. You wanted me to abandon my world and join yours. You wanted me to be grateful for the privilege of being transformed into someone more suitable for your ambitions. I pause at the edge of the table, looking down at him one last time. But I'm not grateful anymore. I'm not diminished by your leaving. I'm not devastated by your betrayal. I'm relieved, because for the first time in 5 years, I can stop pretending to be someone I'm not. Stop apologizing for coming from somewhere you consider beneath you. Stop trying to earn my place in a life that never felt like mine. I turn to leave, then stop and look back. Give Ashley my regards, I say. Tell her she's welcome to the life I'm leaving behind. Tell her she's lucky to have found someone who appreciates her exactly as she is. Tell her she belongs with you in a way I never did. The drive home takes 20 minutes through the familiar streets of Portland. The fog has lifted slightly, and I can see the city lights reflecting off the Willamette River. I roll down the windows and let the cool air wash over me, feeling lighter than I have in years. When I pull into the driveway of my house, not our house, not the house I share with Marcus, but the house that has been mine all along, I sit for a moment in the car, looking up at the wraparound porch, the gabled roof, the warm light spilling from the windows. I think about Elena, 22 years old, and determined to make a place for herself in a world that told her she didn't belong. I think about Rosa, turning our dining room into a classroom, our house into a community center, our family legacy into something that could benefit others. I think about the responsibility I've inherited, the trust that was placed in me, the history I've been entrusted to preserve. Inside, the house feels different. It feels like mine again. I walk through the rooms that Marcus has been trying to modernize, the spaces he's been trying to make more suitable for entertaining his colleagues and clients. I see them now through my own eyes, not through his vision of what they should become. In the kitchen, I put on the kettle and make myself a cup of tea. I sit at the table where my grandmother used to help me with homework, where my great-grandmother used to plan her weekly budget, where generations of my family have gathered to share meals and stories and dreams. I think about the conversation I need to have with my mother tomorrow, about the lawyer I need to call, about the life I need to rebuild. But mostly, I think about the future I can create now that I'm no longer trying to fit into someone else's vision of what my life should look like. The house settles around me with familiar creaks and sighs. The refrigerator hums. The old radiator clicks as it adjusts to the evening temperature. These are the sounds of home, the sounds of belonging, the sounds of a place where I don't need anyone else's permission to exist. I pull out my phone and delete Marcus's number. Then I scroll through my contacts and find the number for Maria Santos, the director of the community center where I volunteer. I send her a text. Can we meet this week? I have an idea for a new program I'd like to discuss. Within minutes, she responds, Of course. How about Thursday afternoon? Everything okay? I smile as I type back. Everything is perfect. I'm finally coming home to myself. I set the phone aside and walk to the window that looks out over the backyard. The garden is visible in the moonlight. The space where my grandmother's vegetables once grew, now covered by Marcus's modern deck. But concrete can be removed. Gardens can be replanted. Heritage roses can be coaxed back to life. Tomorrow, I'll start making calls. I'll contact the contractor who specializes in historical restoration. I'll research heritage seed companies. I'll begin the process of bringing my grandmother's garden back to life, of undoing the changes that were made in the name of improvement and returning the house to its authentic self. I think about the basement space that's been used for storage and how it could be converted into a meeting room for immigrant families. I imagine workshops on financial literacy, English conversation circles, citizenship test preparation, all the things that Elena and Rosa would have supported, all the ways this house can continue to serve its original purpose as a place of refuge and growth. The divorce will be straightforward. Marcus can hire the best lawyers in Portland, but the facts are simple. The house was mine before the marriage, and it remains mine after. He contributed to our lifestyle, not to the property itself. He can take the furniture he bought, the art he selected, the wine collection he curated. He can take everything that represents his vision of our life together. I'll keep everything that represents my family's legacy. 6 months from now, I imagine myself hosting the first scholarship dinner in Elena's honor. I imagine young Latina women sitting around my dining room table, sharing their dreams of college, their plans for the future, their determination to succeed despite the obstacles they face. I imagine their families gathering in my living room, just as families have been gathering here for 70 years. I imagine myself whole again, no longer trying to fit into someone else's definition of who I should be. The kettle whistles, pulling me back to the present moment. I pour the hot water over the tea bag. Chamomile, the same blend my grandmother always made when she needed to think clearly. The steam rises from the cup, carrying with it the scent of comfort, of home, of belonging. As I sit back down at the kitchen table, I notice something I haven't seen in years. The small notebook, where my grandmother used to write down her thoughts, her observations, her prayers. It's been sitting in the drawer all this time, waiting for me to be ready to see it again. I open it to a random page and find an entry dated just a few months before she died. The house remembers everything, every meal shared, every tear shed, every laugh that echoed through these rooms. It remembers Elena's determination, my love, and now it's learning Tiffany's strength. The house doesn't just shelter us from the weather. It shelters us from the world's insistence that we become smaller, quieter, more grateful than we need to be. May Tiffany always remember that she belongs here, completely and without apology. I close the notebook and hold it against my chest, feeling the weight of 3 generations of women who refused to be diminished, who fought for their place in the world, who built something lasting and beautiful and strong. Outside, Portland settles into its evening rhythm. Inside, I sit in my kitchen. Elena's kitchen, Rosa's kitchen, my kitchen, and feel the deep satisfaction of being exactly where I belong. Marcus was right about one thing. I don't belong in his world of networking events and architectural galas and carefully curated social media posts. I belong here, in this house that holds the stories of my family, in this community that my grandmother helped build, in this life that I'm finally ready to claim as fully and unapologetically my own. The fog has completely lifted now, and through the window I can see the lights of downtown Portland twinkling in the distance. Somewhere out there, Marcus is probably calling Ashley, telling her that the divorce is proceeding smoothly, that they can start planning their modern, efficient, perfectly coordinated future together. And somewhere else out there are young women who don't yet know they're enough, who are waiting for someone to tell them they belong, who need to hear the story of Elena and Rosa and the house that love built. I raise my teacup in a silent toast to my grandmother, to my great-grandmother, to the woman I used to be, and to the woman I'm becoming. Then I take out a fresh piece of paper and begin writing the first draft of the grant proposal that will turn this house into the community resource it was always meant to be. The story doesn't end here. It begins.